Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good evening. I can see the Brews and Views crew is not sitting down. I don't know what other kind of result we were expecting, though. We hope that everybody had a great afternoon, that you enjoyed a little bit of free time to enjoy this incredible resort, take in the scenery, and connect with friends and make new ones. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had so many interesting speakers, so many great conversations. I'm sure you feel like I do that the weekend has flown by. Now, there are some of you in this room who have told me that these couple of days have just wet your whistle, and that you are eager to get more behind the scenes with what we're doing at the Heritage Foundation. So I would like to take a minute and to speak to that group and invite you personally to our first ever inaugural Heritage member fly-in. We are bringing in a group of supporters for the first time during the month of June 18th through 20th, and get see what a day in the life or 2 days in the life of a Heritage staff member are like. Some of you have asked me if there are any opportunities for retirees to intern at Heritage. This is maybe your opportunity to do that. We truly would like to have you come and hear from our policy experts, meet with lawmakers. We'll make a trip over to the White House, meet with administration officials over the course of those 2 days, June 18th through 20th. So more information to come. Be on the lookout for that. And of course, we hope that you will join us at our annual President's Club meeting in October. You heard Mrs. James directly mention yesterday that we're going to blow this one out of the water. So mark your calendars for October 20th through 23rd as we unveil publicly the launch of the Ed Fulner Institute at an incredible, it'll be a great President's Club. You don't want to miss it. October 20th through 23rd. Now, it is such an honor to lead our development department, really because it's comprised of incredible patriots. And one of those represents Heritage here in Southern California. He's a West Point grad, an Army Ranger, Randy Sestone. And Randy has helped me understand, he's given me a history lesson, and has helped me understand that the conservative movement faces a risk today that is much like a risk that the magnificent city of Constantinople faced in the 1400s. The city of Constantinople stood for 1,100 years. Militarily, it was in prime position because the city had oceans on two sides, so only that third side needed fortification. And there was a cannon maker named Orban, and he arrived in Constantinople in 1452, and the emperor was fascinated by his innovative weaponry and hired him on the spot. But after a few months, funding ran out. And so Orban made the right decision, right? We believe in free markets, to take his talents elsewhere. But unfortunately, in this situation, elsewhere was the Ottoman Empire, dead set on destroying Constantinople. So with Orban's new weapons, including a 27-foot-long cannon, 80,000 Ottomans marched to the gates of Constantinople. For 1,100 years, the city's walls had repelled dozens of all-out assaults, but Orban's weapons proved to be too much. It was 566 years ago this month that Constantinople was attacked and ultimately fell. And so thinking about the last couple of days, it is clear to me that the conservative movement, we're protected by strong ideas on one side and really incredibly admirable people on the other, but are still vulnerable with the lack of resources on the third. And it's that third side that the left seeks to exploit. Make no mistake, the left is mobilizing its ranks, raising billions of dollars, and preparing for battle going into 2020. Many of you will know Richard Viguerie, a direct marketing guru of the conservative movement. He did a survey recently and found that there are 8 million left-leaning donors across the country, raising more than $10 billion. And on the right, 2 million donors raising $2 billion. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have to stand our ground and improve our weaponry like never before, because the left has upped their game. And like Constantinople, we will be vulnerable unless we can keep pace. But this weekend, You all have stepped up bigly to give Heritage the weapons that we need, the new age weapons to turn the tide. And it's with your help that our movement is going to keep growing. We want to grow this event. So next year, I hope that you will bring your friends to the annual leadership conference. I hope that you will bring your kids to the President's Club meeting in October. And we hope that we see your grandkids interning at Heritage over the summer. Because of you and your generosity, we are matching and will have the opportunity to exceed the opposition of the left. It's your continued support Heritage is able to continue to serve as a shining city on a hill, on Capitol Hill, defending this nation's great principles. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit of a change of plans for our invocation. After last night's rousing performance, we've asked Mary Millben to come back and lead us in the Lord's Prayer. Now, last night, I failed to mention, Mary, that you are joining us just off of the debut of a new single called Grace Will Lead Me Home. And it's the closing song of a new feature film called The Meanest Man in Texas. And this film is playing in theaters in Texas now, so go and see it, all the Texans here, and opens nationwide on May 17th. Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Millben.
What a great day. What a great day. You've heard from some of the nation's smartest experts today in immigration, the life issue, and how Heritage is crafting messages to reach new audiences, what Heritage Action is doing to mobilize the grassroots. It's been an absolutely great day. We've been able to renew friendships, make new friendships. And what about Dan Crenshaw? What an incredible guy. What an amazing guy. You know, he's only been at it for, what, three years? And he's already like a pro. But I think more importantly, what's amazing about that guy is he represents, I think, the future, not only the conservative movement, but I hope the Republican Party. So speaking of Dan and also of Lieutenant Dan from last night, we got some veterans here, I think, in the audience. I know we do. Could I ask all of the veterans in the audience to please stand up so we can tell you how much we love you and how much we thank you for your service to this country. Yeah. God bless all of you. Thank you for your service. So we've had a great day, but we're not done yet. We have even more for you this evening. And that's going to be a very special guest as a speaker this evening. Victor Davis Hanson has something of an advantage over his competitors in the field of commentary. Because he is an accomplished historian, and I'm an historian myself, his mind takes in the longer timeline. He sees a wider context. His understanding of events is deeper and clearer than many others. And for this reason, his conclusions are not only incisive, they are interesting. I can't tell you how many times I've been reading a Hanson commentary and I thought to myself, why on earth did I not think of that? It's not every day where a commentator can bring insights from ancient Greece into understanding contemporary affairs, and yes, this is what Victor Davis Hanson does. This has made him something of a phenomena in the world of conservative commentary, and for very good reason. In the digital age of Twitter and social media, notwithstanding the fact that apparently now the attention span of people is 8 seconds, that's what we heard today in one of the messaging sessions, I still think people are hungry for wisdom. They want to know how our judgments of rapidly changing times can be, and more importantly, should be grounded in permanent things. And speaking of permanent things, many of you may not know this, but Professor Hanson is a farmer. He actually is a farmer. Now, I have great admiration for farmers. Actually, many of my ancestors, I think probably most of them, were farmers. Richard Weaver, the great American scholar and conservative, once described farmers as level-headed, as compared to what he called the erratic excitability of the city dweller. I don't know if Victor likes or dislikes cities, but I do know that he's level-headed. Now, it would be an understatement to describe Professor Hanson as a prolific writer. If my count is correct, he is the author and editor of 24 books, hundreds of articles, book reviews, and scholarly articles. His newspaper editorials cover matters ranging from ancient Greece, agrarian and military history, to foreign affairs, domestic politics, and contemporary culture. But his most recent book is The Case for Trump, and it's attracting an awful lot of attention. Let me read from you the preface of what he writes. I quote him. The Case for Trump argues that at home, the economy in Trump's first 600 days was better than at any time in the last decade. Massive deregulation, stepped-up energy production, tax cuts, increased border enforcement, and talking up the American brand has produced a synergistic economic upswing, as evidenced by the gross domestic product growth, a roaring stock market, and a near-record unemployment. Now, we at Heritage could not agree more. In the first year of the Trump presidency alone, we were very happy indeed to learn that President Trump had embraced 64% of our policy agenda. So we happen to believe that some of that good results was a result of doing the right thing. Victor Davis Hanson is a senior fellow in residence in classics and military history at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University. He is also a professor of classics emeritus at California State University at Fresno and a nationally syndicated columnist. He is a distinguished fellow in history at Hillsdale College, where he teaches each fall a semester course in military history and classic culture. Professor Hanson is a recipient of numerous awards, including the National Humanities Medal, the Bradley Prize, the Edmund Burke Award, the William F. Buckley Prize, and the Claremont Institute's Award. To be honest, there is no commentator on the scene today that I would be more excited to hear from than Victor Davis Hanson. So please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. I wrote a book about the history of agrarianism, and I remember Kim Holmes wrote a book on Bavarian agrarianism in 1991, and I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I did, and it was very helpful. I want to thank President James for asking me. You know, I speak a lot at the Hoover Institution retreats, and I think after being here for yesterday and today, I think we're missing something. We tend to err on the side of secular rationalism, and we don't have this empathy, at least we don't express it. I think we hold it, but for American exceptionalism, patriotism, and transcendence. You can't explain the world just in rationalism, and sometimes we miss what I guess Lincoln called the mystic chords of memory. And here it's been very good for my wife and I to see people who are unabashedly pro-American and believe in religion, and without which this country wouldn't exist. I want to talk just for 20 minutes about how Trump got elected, why people hate him so much, and what's in the future. I think historians will still, 30 years from now, try to figure out 2016. It was the first time we've had a major candidate without either political or military experience that was nominated by a party. How did he demolish 16 gifted candidates in that primary? They were much better than 2008, I think you'd agree, or even 12. We had governors like Chris Christie, Bobby Jindal, Scott Walker, who all were successful, rising young conservative Senate stars like Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. Even the outsiders, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, were much better than the 2012 outsiders. So how did he do it? And some of you say, well, he was in The Apprentice, so remember Arnold Schwarzenegger tried to do The Apprentice and he flopped within a year. And he had political experience. So there was something else to it, and I think the answer is he had a unique message, and he was a unique messenger. By that, I don't want to suggest that he was an apostate from Republican principles. If you actually look what he embraced, 85% of it was Republican to the core. Deregulation, beefed up defense, strict constructionist judges, more energy development, restoration of deterrence abroad. I think we all agreed on that. But what was brilliant about it is he tweaked that traditional message in a way that I kept thinking that, and I think you did too, why didn't the other candidates pick up on it? And what he did was he added 3 or 4 issues to that we all assumed we needed to do something about, but we just didn't want to talk about it. The first was we'd gotten to this idea that China was fated to be the world's hegemon. Couldn't question it. Asymmetrical in trade, yes. Cheated on patents and copyright, yes. But China was on a road bump to Carmel, California. The more we gave into it, the wealthier they got, the more democratic. Trump came along in that crass, they're cheaters, we're going to fix it. And people in the Midwest liked that. And then he had another similar message. You in the Middle West didn't take opiates and drive industry away. You don't need to learn coding. You don't have to go to the fracking field. Something bypassed you. Globalization bypassed you. Trade, if it's not fair, it's not free. Outsourcing and offshoring and all that, all the things that make capitalism work has to have an empathetic element to it. And you have cheap power in the United States, you've got an educated workforce. There's no reason why you can't compete with Japanese and German workers under a fair trading system. Nobody had remembered that. Third, you don't have sovereignty if you don't have a border. And if you don't have a border that's secure, you're not a country anymore. Jeb Bush, remember, was saying that illegal immigration was an act of love. You should come to Southwest Fresno County. It's not. And finally, he said, if you're going to overseas, he wasn't an isolationist, but he said, if you're going to go overseas, remember he said, I'm going to bomb the SH out of ISIS. But if you're going to go overseas and you can't translate tactical victory on the ground in Tripoli or in Kabul into strategic advantage and a cause, it's not worth it. That message resonated as well, but they resonated in a brilliant way. Trump had a rare animal cunning. He had this message that he tweaked, and he said to himself, or his advisors, or they said to him, 6 million people sat out the 2012 election because they did not resonate with Mitt Romney or John McCain. This message, fair trade, China's not going to put us all out of business, let's not go overseas and slay dragons or whatever that was, appealed to people in Wisconsin. That 6 million that either had voted for Obama had not turned out in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida. Nobody saw that. I thought, wow, don't they understand what Trump's doing? He's crafting a message to win the Electoral College. I hope it's genuine. But besides the message, he was a different messenger, if you think about it. All of us, I think, in our dark hearts, and maybe they are dark, got tired of losing nobly. We wanted to win ugly, if that's what it took. The worst thing that a candidate can do is have you, the donor or the supporter, go out on a limb and then saw you off. Whether you like Reverend Wright or not, he was an anti-Semite and expressed racialism. And when you tried to point out, and John McCain said, we're not going to speak about Reverend Wright in this 2008, that cut off the donor. When Mitt Romney was in that 2012 campaign debate, and Candy Crawley hijacked it and basically joined Obama, you wanted a Reagan moment. I am paying for this, and wanted him to, and he didn't do it. And when a candidate does that, it tells his supporters, why should I go out and fight and take the heat when my own candidate won't? And so we were ready to say we don't want to play by the Marcus of Queensberry rules anymore. Trump may be a pit bull, but if we cut the leash, he'll go in the right direction. And he will. And he was like every single Twitter, even the cul-de-sacs tweets, the nonsensical ones, there was a theme to it. I don't have time to go into them, but he was a coiled cobra. He was retaliatory, not preemptive. People attacked him, and I thought, oh my God, they're going to climb down into this wrestling ring with him, and they are saintly, and Trump has never said he was saintly. He's actually been in a physical wrestling ring before, and he's not going to get dirty because he doesn't care about getting dirty. They do. Remember when Elizabeth Warren got into the Pocahontas thing? I thought, oh my God, if she keeps this up, she's actually going to take a DNA test, and it's going to show something. And so there was a second, but before we say that he's just crude and crass, there was more to that, much more. You know, if you think about it, I think Mitt Romney gave a great speech when he said to a group, 47% of the people I can't reach because they're on, but that's kind of a cruel thing to say. There's a lot of people on Social Security that rely on government. Trump didn't do that. He was the first Republican that I know of who used the first person possessive pronoun our. He went through the Midwest, he said, our vets, our vets, our auto workers, our truckers. When he went to Virginia, Hillary had just, remember she said, went into West Virginia and she said, well, you know, solar panels and all that, you're going to have to learn to do that because we're going to shut down your industry. He came in and said, I love big, beautiful coal. And so he was able to radiate a sense of empathy and we didn't expect that because he was an attack dog. And then the second thing about it was he was much more complex than the media thought. He was authentic and genuine. He came to Tulare, California. And I asked a farmer, so did he put on the flannel and the jeans and the Caterpillar baseball? I said, no, he didn't. I said, he didn't? He said, no, he had this Queen's accent, he had the suit with a loud tie, he had the tan, the hair, among all these farmers. And that was it, wasn't it? He went to Alabama, he was Trump. He went to Maine, he was Trump. Hillary went south of the Mason-Dixon line, she had a drawl. John Kerry, remember, in 2004, he had camouflage, he had to buy a hunting license, he was Kerry the duck hunter. Dukakis was in the tank. Obama goes into the inner city and he's a rapper. Trump was what he was. He was authentic and genuine, and that radiated to people. And then when he ran against Hillary, everybody said he was the one candidate that the Republicans would lose. He was the only one that was going to win, and she was the only Democratic one that was going to lose. All of Trump's sins were nullified by Hillary's greater sins. He was a bad boy in private business. She was a saint in public service that had sinned greater than he did. He had a checkered business past. She had a very checkered public service past. He might have been married 3 times, but her husband, well, we won't get into that. And so Trump was 70 years old. She was 69 and more like 80. He was more like 50. So he was uniquely suited to run against Hillary. So then we know what he did, so there's no need to go at very quickly. Why do people hate him so much? Part of it is that his resume is so atypical, and if he's succeeding, as Kim outlined and others in the last day and a half have outlined, then what does it say about a resume? What does it say about all those letters after our names? If you can't get 3% economic growth, or you can't translate a tactical victory into a strategic advantage for the United States, or you can't address China, and you have all of this expertise, what does it mean? And what does it mean when a president won't call the Council on Foreign Relations up, or he won't call Wiseman in Washington up? It's kind of a referendum that you can't really stomach. Second, I think equally important, it was a shock, let's admit it. Not only did he not win the popular vote, but he beat what was supposed to be a 16-year-long Obama-Clinton regnum. Think about it. On the night of the election, the New York Times said 1, 4, and 12% chance of winning by our 3 analyses, and it just didn't happen. It was a shock, which led to suing for the voting machines, which begot the electors were supposed to be sabotaged, which begot emoluments clause, which begot the Logan Act, which begot the 25th Amendment, Mueller, Stormy, the whole thing. They could not accept that, and they hated him for winning. And then third, I think there was something about Trump that didn't fit the idea of presidential, obviously. His accent, the way he looked, he didn't seem sober and judicious in the way that Washington diplomats and politicians are supposed to act. And it was almost as if he was in that 2004 Apple commercial. Remember with the athlete that she runs in and throws that hammer into Big Brother in the screen and shatters it? That's what he did. He was a disruptor. Henry Kissinger said that. Every once in a while, a person came. We all know that you should have moved the embassy from Jerusalem to Jerusalem. We all knew that Golan Heights are not going to go back to Syria. We all knew that the Palestinians are as much refugees as the Volga Germans and the Sudeten Germans are in 1946 that have been long ago absorbed, or Jews in Egypt or Greeks in Egypt are not saying that they're refugees now once they were ethnically cleansed. We all knew that. We all knew the Paris Accord was a fraud. We knew the Iran deal was flawed. We knew you had to open Anwar up. We knew we needed Keystone, but we were all afraid to say it. We were too invested in the system. What would they say? Who did you consult? This guy came along and just did it. And he not only just did it, he did it in a way that was as if he was a Queens real estate operator. And he was. And so that made people hate him as well. And then finally, he didn't fail. He was successful. He was very successful. What are his chances in 2020? Well, we've never had a candidate, according to the Shorenstein Center at Harvard, not exactly a conservative analytical group of media reportage, but 90% of media coverage is hostile to Trump. And you can see it every single day with the Washington Post, NPR, PBS, New York Times, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, CNN. It's just constant. Second, the popular culture is liberal. The major foundations are liberal. The universities are not liberal, they're far left. Hollywood, entertainment, they're all united by a hatred of Donald Trump. How can anybody, even an incumbent, withstand that? And the answer is, I think that 2020 he has a record. 2016 he didn't. The record is good. That's a plus. We look at other candidates who had won the presidency and went up for re-election. Let's take Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. At this time, in each of their respective fourth month of governance in their first term of the third year, they were polling between 43 and 46, right within the parameters that Trump is now. We forget that. In the first midterm, Trump was not nearly as bloodied as either one, Clinton. Clinton lost 53 seats and 8 senators. I think Obama lost 62 seats and 6 senators. Trump lost 39 or 40, and he picked up 2 Senate seats. Clinton demolished Bob Dole in the re-election campaign of '96, and Obama demolished Mitt Romney in the Electoral College in 2012. History is on Trump's side as an incumbent, and compared to what other presidents have done with the same midterm record and popularity at this point in their tenures. I think you all know this phenomenon of meeting people who did not vote in 2016 for Trump, although they were conservative, and you ask them now, very few say, well, I would never vote for him for 2020. Most say that they will. When you meet people who did vote for him in 2016, very few say, he turned me off, I'll never vote for him again. Just I think we feel that. We've seen it happen. That is good. And then most importantly, I don't know where we get this idea that presidential elections are popularity contests. Sometimes they're great races between a great candidate and a good candidate, but more often they're from a bad or worse candidate. It can be. I'm not suggesting that's going to be 2020, but Trump's going to run against a real person. And that real person is going to have to go through the primaries and go through the debates and go through the convention and not somehow have an albatross around their neck, collective neck, of the new Green Deal, permissible infanticide, reparations, 60, 70, 80, 90% income tax, wealth tax, outlaw the internal combustion engine, 16-year-olds vote, Boston Marathon voter killer can vote, abolish almost everything, abolish ICE, abolish electoral college, abolish student debt, free tuition for everybody. The 18-year-old truck driver from Bakersfield who's went out of high school and is working as hard as he can, he's going to pay for Pajama Boy to take 6 units now and then until he's 30. That's what it is. And that message does not resonate. That message does not resonate each individually at 51%. And then finally, the great strength of Martin Luther King's message to us all was that the content of our character, not the color of our skin, matters. And that our identity is incidental. It's not essential to who we are. It's our person. But the Democratic Party has been absent on that. They've taken a hard left turn, and they have gone down the identity politics where each person now identifies first and foremost as transgender or gay or feminist or black or Asian. And so much so that they feel that the white male candidate is guilty of all of these crimes and therefore cannot be president. People have said this. I just looked in the polls this morning. The top 4 candidates are white male candidates. Beto and Biden and Bernie and the mayor from Indiana, from South Bend. That's a contradiction, an existential contradiction in terms. So how do they square that circle? They can't, so they end up becoming absurd. I will promise you I will have a woman as my vice president candidate. Well, why not make her president and you vice president? So I think it looks, let me just finish with one final note as a historian. What I think is most frustrating, we have people who are very ahistorical in the media say, we've never seen anybody like Trump. And I'm thinking, we haven't? Actually, we've never seen anybody who has been more transparent and cross-examined and dissected during his years than Trump has. Do we really understand the history of this country? I mean, my God, I'm not trying to, in a solemn occasion as this, turn it into a tawdry affair, but Anna Roosevelt was conducting a liaison between FDR and Lucy Mercer in the White House while Eleanor was conducting a lesbian affair. Nobody thought that that imperiled World War II. Maybe it should. Harry Truman wrote a letter to a reviewer who had made fun of his daughter, Margaret, and he said, when I get through with you, the place between your legs and blah, blah, blah. As president. This was a man who everybody hated, remember? He only had a semester of business school, but he managed to integrate the troops, save South Korea, accept and recognize Israel, create the CIA. I don't know if that was so good when I think of John Brennan. But the point I'm making is John Kennedy, I don't want to get into John Kennedy and the pool escapades that he conducted. We don't, no need to talk about, well, let's talk about LBJ. Remember he, according to Robert Carroll, pulled down his pants and said, does LBJ have anything, I mean, does Ho Chi Minh have anything like this? And then we had, of course, Bill Clinton, and I won't go there. The point I'm making is not that too crude behavior is synonymous with good leadership, but we wish that good behavior was all the time. But Trump's past is past, and it's not necessarily a referendum on his ability to lead. We remember that the two best people I can remember in my lifetime as far as their public comportment and private behavior that at least I knew about, and you knew about, maybe not, you're insiders, maybe you know more than I did, but I thought Jerry Ford and Jimmy Carter were sterling individuals. I also thought that the period between 1973 and 1980 was an utter disaster. I think that the worst behaved leader that we've ever had as far as his personal comportment was George Patton. He was conducting an affair with his stepniece while he was leading troops to victory. Had we put Courtney Hodges in Third Army, or we had a saint like Omar Bradley leading Third Army, we would have destroyed that army. He was absolutely essential to winning World War II. So was Curtis LeMay, a very uncouth person. Again, what I'm suggesting that we all need to do is accept the role of irony and paradox in the inexplicable and give it some latitude. And then look at things empirically, not what people say, but what they actually do, not who they were in the past, but who they are now, and not what their credentials say they are to be or what they should be, but what they actually are. Thank you very much.
What a way to end our time together. I am as about transparent as anyone can be, and I will share with you here what I said privately to Victor at the table. In my first week at the Heritage Foundation, I said, we have the best in class in everything. Why don't we have Victor Hanson? I have been a long-time admirer, and so the opportunity to have you here and to close out our time together was very special, and we truly thank you. Wow, has this not been absolutely marvelous? As I look back over our last 2 days together, there have been so many highlights that I hesitate to even mention a few. And I can tell you that it has been an extraordinary time for me personally. Many of you know the struggles with a child that's in the hospital, or a brother who just passed away. But I'll tell you, spending these days here with you, processing what it means to be an American, and how we're going to go forward together to save this country that we love has been extraordinary. If you've heard me speak over the last year, there's always a quote that I use, and it's not because it's a stump speech. And it's not because I can't think of anything else to say. It's because I believe it bears repeating over and over and over again. And I want to close out our time together with this particular quote from Abraham Lincoln. "From whence shall we expect the approach of danger? Shall some transatlantic military giant step the earth and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe and Asia could not by force take a drink from the Ohio River or make a track on the Blue Ridge in the trial of 1,000 years. No, if destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we will live forever or die by suicide. I am not concerned about little Rocket Man. I have such faith in our military and their ability to protect us. I think that we have a transformational president who is doing things that we as conservatives have yearned for years. Amen. What concerns me is the threat from within. The threat that I see happening on our college campuses and in our public schools. The things that I see going on in our country that don't originate on foreign shores and come here, but what we see going on every day. And so we come together to seek solutions for this. And that's what we've done in our time together. As shareholders in the Heritage Foundation, I want you to know and understand that the money that you give, the resources, the hard-earned resources that you give to us, we shepherd those resources, and then we target them at the things we know we need to do to save this nation. So it isn't dollars that I see when I hear the numbers. It's resources that I see and what they represent for what we can do. I have met so many patriots in this room, people who love this country and understand the battle that we have in front of us. And we are grateful. The staff and the board of the Heritage Foundation are grateful for your support. The last few days have been extraordinary, and there's some people that we need to thank for that. First of all, you. Thank you for your continued support. Some of you are new friends, and some of you have been with us for many, many years. I want to thank our board. We have a strong representation from the board. You've met our stellar chair. I call her Sasha Fierce. She really is. Can I have the board stand just to be recognized so that we can see who you are? I can't thank our founder enough. He, of course, is a part of our board. But Ed Fullner, thank you for what you have done over the years. I hope you feel the love in the room, and you know how much we all admire and respect you. And I know my job, and I say it to him all the time and to you, is to put in cement what he and Phil have built over the years, and we will do just that. Talk about world class. No one on the planet has an events team like the Heritage Foundation. I spent a few minutes this afternoon with our development team. Some of you may know that as we approached all of the transition last year, one of the areas that I was most concerned about was our development staff and how we were going to maintain the resources that we needed in order to carry on the fight. But boy, have they done an extraordinary job. Thank you to our development team for all you've done. There has not been one thing that I saw lacking, and I want to thank our hotel staff for all that you did to make this a very pleasant time. You are extraordinary. Well, you know that we've had a challenge that's been going on over the last few days. Our chairwoman said, you know, if you're going to be on the board at the Heritage Foundation and we're going to go out and ask our donors to support the important work that we do, we're going to ask the board of the Heritage Foundation to step up. And she did. She got on airplanes and went and talked. She made phone calls. She wrote emails. She wrote letters. And then she said, we can't ask our donors unless we are there first. And so she did. She raised a certain amount of money, and then we asked if during our time together you could match that. Andrew, would you come forward and let us know how we did and what's going on? Oh, I see champagne. That must mean good news.
Wait, I thought both of these were for me.
Oh, no.
Mrs.
Yes.
J, we do have excellent news. Thanks to the generosity of all the patriots in this room. Don't worry, we are not the only ones that are going to have some champagne now. We'll ask all the servers to flood the room and make sure that everybody gets a glass. Ladies and gentlemen, if you combine what the board gave, everybody here, some folks from across the country who were disappointed they couldn't be here, we've raised $14.1 million.
Yes.
That comes from 65 people, individuals, families, and we are just so incredibly grateful for the way that you provide the lifeblood to our organization. You truly provide the fuel to make sure that the engine of the Heritage Foundation can run. $14 million, more than $14 million. Thank you to the board. Thank you to everybody in the room. I'd say, what are you doing next weekend?
Let's do it again. Does everybody have a glass of champagne at this point? To our country that we love and to the Heritage Foundation. Hear, hear.
Here.
Cheers.
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 Here we go.
Wow. And if, in fact, you enjoyed our time here, we have some truly, truly special things planned for President's Club. Come, bring your families, bring your friends, and we will celebrate together. It has been an incredible 2 days, and I can't think of a better way to close out our time together. How about we bring Mary back to the stage? Isn't she wonderful?
Yes. Don't you love Kate Cole James? I want to say before you leave, thank you for this wonderful opportunity, the invitation to be a part of this conference. You know I love you, and you've been such a great support to me, a great mentor to me, and so I honor you in front of The Heritage Foundation family, thank you for the great support. And what a joy it's been to be here for this conference. I tell you, I've inherited a whole new room of friends and family thanks to you.
And fans.
And but mostly friends and family. And so,
Bring it on home.
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. I tell you, you can know that America is in good hands because of K. Cole James, because of the people, yes. Because of the people in this room, and give yourselves a hand, and most importantly, because of the great institution that we know as the Heritage Foundation. There's no better way to end an evening, let alone a conference, than singing about the country that we all love. This is America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. God bless, you know this, America. Land that I love. Sing it with me. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America. God bless America, my home, sweet, sweet home. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining America, America, God shed his grace. America, it's a great country. God bless you, Heritage Foundation. I love you, Miss Kay.